So, we are continuously learning on the courage of the Bodhisattva. And the courage of the Bodhisattva, I think it takes lifelong courage to learn really just to understand the courage, and then to put it in action, to put it in practice. And I think it takes longer. And especially, the courage of the Bodhisattva that was actually composed by the Master Shantideva, the Indian master, and in his Bodhisattva way of life. Mostly all the chapters are different ways of practicing the courage of the Bodhisattva. And especially this chapter, the chapter on meditation, is actually really it's a courage to face yourself, and courage to be oneself. And in the Bodhisattva meditation, what kind of courage we are learning is it is like learning how to let go of the attachment to the the things that we desire. And what really happen in our life is we have a sort of like a lack of courage that we run away. We run away from our self, our true self. And then we sort of like, because we have this fear of being alone. And then we kind of run towards the crowd and thinking that we might get some support and for some kind of safety, some kind of a secure kind of feeling. And so this fear is actually sort of like causing us to really grasp, right? Because we think that if I am left alone, if I don't keep doing something, if I just see myself, then I will be worthless. I will be unsecure. I will be unsafe. I will be totally bored to death. And so that is why what we do is then our ego creates this illusion of saying, okay, here it goes. This is you should grasp, and here it go. You should just hold it tight. And so we try to sort of gather, and then it is we build our attachment very, very strong. So as a result of building our attachment so strong, that attachment is like a glue. It's very sticky, So it is our whole being is kind of sprayed with a really glue that everywhere we touch, it just kind of stick on us. If we see this flower, oh, this is good, then we just don't let it go, and then sort of we try to gather and just kind of like everything, because we feel like we need everything. Like, I want this, I want that, I want this. So, and then like whatever we do everything out of that attachment. So then like the what side effect it bring is like we become like very addicted to the things that we desire, and then we carried away with this attachment that then like slowly we just kind of like we become sort of like what do you call these days we have a modern problem called like a hoarding, right? It's called the hoarding or what? Hoarding, right? Like people, like, you know, in some level, that is our, you know, like in a way, our attachment does that. Like we, you know, we collect and collect and collect, and then we feel like the things that we collect and we attach to is actually we don't get any space. You know, it's like we are totally covered with all these things, and then at the same time, you know, we like it is just like we cover ourselves because we don't want to see ourselves. You know, we cover ourselves with all these things that we collect and collect, and then, you know, if it happened like that, then meditation is like really impossible to, you know, happen in that kind of circumstances, in that kind of situation. So that is why Master Shandideva actually, you know, he focused very much on, okay, meditate. So how can we meditate? How can we actually practice the meditation of the Bodhisattva? And to do that, first of all, you need to understand and you need to figure what is actually causing you not to meditate. So that is why he actually focused on desire. Attachment is the main obstacles of meditation. So if our mind is filled with attachment, then there is no what do you call? There is no like there's no way that we can actually sit in meditation and be calm, because it will like it will clutter our mind. It will like, you know, what do you call, distract our mind, and there is like meditation is supposed to be very peaceful and very calm, right? Like so if like everything is like really distracting you from everything, then like our meditation will not become. So that is why Master Shandideva in this meditation chapter, like until the verses 85, right? I think we finish until the verses 85. And mostly, if you really look into those 85 verses, what was he actually really teaching us? And what was he actually telling us is saying that, you know, look deeply into your own attachment and see how it is ruining your happiness. That's what he's saying. So if we actually really understand how attachment is making us like you know, become their what do you call, a slave. You know, that we chase, right? We chase everything. Like, oh, I want this, sort of like, you know, like we keep running after what we are attached to, and then like it becomes sort of like a race. It becomes sort of like a competition. Like in our human world, everybody is like really trying to chase, you know, something, and running after something. And I always like this old Western saying, you know, even though you win the rat race, you are still a rat. Right? And that's sort of like, you know, we actually chase, like we think that, oh, someone is getting before me. I should not let that person go before me. Like, it is just like we are all like a rat that is like, trying to chase, each other. And then, when we are in the midst of this kind of chasing attitude, that is like mainly coming from attachment, right? And then when we look around, then we, that attachment actually generate jealousy, right? Envy. And then if someone, gets it and you don't get it, and then we get frustration. Like that frustration will become a disappointment, and that disappointment will become anger. And that anger become like a hatred. That hatred become like a resentment. So it is just like, because of this simple fear that we have, and it creates attachment. Then attachment creates jealousy. Then that jealousy creates anger, and that creates like arrogance. All this sort of like everything is created from there. So that is why, like the remedy for that, like if we really want to deal with the source of our problem, then deal with the fear first. Because that fear that we have is the main cause of everything that what we are actually experiencing. Attachment, anger, jealousy, arrogance, pride, and all these things are actually coming from that fear. So that is why Shantideva really pinpointing the courage, right? Because the courage is the remedy, actually. That is the main, medicine for that problem that we have. So that is why, learning the courage of the Bodhisattva, and especially from the Bodhisattva Way of Life chapter, here we are learning how to actually face ourselves, to see what, what we are. And in a way, many of the ancient Tibetan master always says something like, you are born alone, you will die alone, then how cannot you live alone? Right? We are not born, with a group. We will not die in group. And everybody comes from our past life just alone, and then when we go, we will go alone. So then there is a time between that we live. So there is a alone. So it is like learning how to actually how to be alone. So then don't mistake that aloneness, because alone doesn't mean antisocial. Right? Sometimes we will think that, okay, this meditation technique that Shantideva is teaching, talking about seeing the beauty of the isolation, right? That's the what he's saying. After understanding that attachment is the root cause of not able to meditate, and then seeing the beauty of the isolation, that he will say that Wemba means isolation. So then sometimes we mistake thinking that, oh, does that means I should be totally alone in the some alone and antisocial kind of thing. But actually that's also no. It is like being alone not necessarily mean you should be out of the crowd. So it is actually alone. Isolation means isolating yourself from those attachment. That you it is okay to live in crowd, but if you are actually alone, that doesn't mean that you are totally escaping or running away from the crowd. You can be in the crowd, but you can feel alone. So I think we have to make a little distinction here, because many times we actually mix feeling alone and feeling lonely, right? These are the two very close. Like we always think that if I am alone, if I'm feeling like I am alone, then we think that I will be lonely, right? But being lonely, feeling lonely is negative. That's a pain, that's a suffering, feeling lonely. And you can be feeling lonely even though you are still in the crowd, right? You can see that like, in Tokyo and New York in the subway, like people are in crowd, right? Like it's filled with the people, but you look, how people are, and many of them are very lonely, right? They are living in the crowd, but they still feel lonely. Are they feeling alone or not? That's the question. They don't feel alone because they are in the crowd. But do they feel lonely? I think yes, they feel lonely. They don't feel like they are part of this, group. And then, like we go back, into the positive, like somebody is feeling very alone, but not lonely. One master actually said in Tibetan, we have a Master Milarepa, right? Now, imagine Master Milarepa. He is living alone in the cave. And he is, what does he feel? Does he feel like he is alone? I think he feels alone. He feels like he's isolated from, everything. Then next question is, does he feel lonely? Does he feel lonely? Then he doesn't feel lonely, right? He doesn't feel lonely. That's the one example. And then same thing, we don't have to go back into some, Master Milarepa. Maybe most of us, we don't know. But like, like somebody is meditating, right? Meditating in the cave. And then who feels like, like practicing a Bodhisattva practice that, all the sentient beings, everything is part of you. And you are not, separate from the whole thing. And I think they don't feel lonely. So that is why in meditation, it is okay to feel alone. But, if we understand the distinction between feeling lonely and feeling alone, then I think we will know what it is. So that is why Master Shantideva is here actually saying in this chapter, saying that learning how to feel alone, like isolated from all the, the afflictive crowd. Like you are actually away from your attachment. You're away from your anger. You're away from your jealousy. You're away from your own projection of this samsara. So because many of the things that we are actually, living in, everything is just our projection. In a way, it is actually the story. Like for example, if you look really deep into yourself, are we living in crowd? And in a way, it is sort of like it is our idea. We have this idea of our family. We have these ideas of our friend. We have this idea of our society, right? So now, if you think we are living in this society, we are living in this circle of our family, we are living in this circle of our friend, and what is that? Is that real, or is that just our idea, or is that just a story that we create in our own mind? then we will get that, right? It is just mainly, even if we look into ourselves, we are just a character in our own story of our life, right? We are just a character, and everybody in our life, you can just see, this is my friend, this is my so and so, this is sort of like everything. If you just from the Tibetan Buddhist point of view, like when we say we put people into 3 categories, there's the people who we like, one category, then people who we don't like is one category, and then there's the people who we don't know, so like a stranger. So put like a 3, people just like sometime in meditation it is good to put like a stranger in the center. On your right, people who you like. On your left, people who people who don't like you. So in a way, sort of like so put this in a way. So then, think about them. So isn't that just an idea, right? Like the friend, enemy, and stranger, right? Friend, enemy, and stranger. So, and they can actually go each other, right? And it is not inherently, it is not permanently that way. Sometimes, the people who are in your friend group will turn, that category, that friend will go sometime into the enemy group, right? The people who are in the stranger group, sometimes they can come into the category of the friend, sometimes they come the category into the enemy. So it is and this, really, if you look into that society that we call, so put the society into 3 categories, and you look into that, isn't that just an idea? Our story, right? This is just so we are actually living in the story of ourselves, and we create the story of our own life. And in that story, we are the main character, right? We are the main character. So in that story, we have villains, right? Villain, like bad people. I mean, they're like bad people. They're like, sometimes there is like some, good people. So I don't know. In that story of our life, we are considered to be villain or I don't know, hero or. But anyway, So we are actually, our mind, in our mind, we are actually, it's very crowded. So now, learn about what Shantideva is saying is isolate, means don't put yourself in that story. That's what he's saying. It is okay to, create the story, but don't live in that story. Isolate yourself. Take yourself in reality. It is, that's not real. It's just a story. It is just our mind is creating the stories, and the character that you have made in that story of your life. If you really look carefully, we are just making it. It is just our projection. And in that story, in that projection, we let ourselves carry it into that. So it feels like everything is so real, right? Everything is so real. Like when this happened, then our emotion, like something good happened, our good emotion comes, wow, this is so wonderful. And then something bad happened, wow, that is bad. And so it is just like, and then in that story of our own life, and we love to make it so dramatic, right? Because everybody likes drama. Right? And we love drama. So it's like if there is something going on, then it is just like our mind gets so excited. What is it? What is it? I want to know, and this is like, oh, what is these people talking about? And it's just like really, we hear something, but our interpretation, it filters through our story. It filters through, it is just, everything is really filtered with our own story. And what comes out of that, projection, the things that maybe we see, things that we hear, things that we see, like something happen. And then it just really filters through our story. And then it becomes like it is just like become a confirmation for our stories, like to make it like a real. And then, like if we don't understand, it is just a story. And if we think everything that we are thinking, every ideas that we are having, and if this is so real, and we put ourselves in that story and living it like real, then there's no chance of meditation there. Because, and that is, so distracting. So that is what, we should understand. What Master Shantideva is saying is isolate. See, now it is not really isolating yourself from the, from the people. It is you are isolating yourself from your own afflictive stories that you have, created, what we have created. So once we kind of pull ourselves from that and seeing everything that happening, with the society, with in our life, and if we really see that as just our projection, it is just a self-created story, and it is not like you can say maybe this story that we created about our life, about our society, is story based on truth. There's some truth in it. There is some truth, there's really, because everything comes from the truth, there is some truth. So it is actually a fiction story based on some truth. So I will not give so much credit. I will say maybe 10% is truth. 90% is not. It's fiction. And if you really look into it, then you will understand that. And that's what actually many of the masters, many of the spiritual masters, the great meditator, when you really meditate, when you really see yourself and how you are creating this story, then you will understand that. And many times we don't, it is very difficult to understand that it is just a story. We don't want to believe that it's just a story, because then, like we think, oh, this is just a story, then, then what fun? There's no fun, right? So, in a way, actually it's not true. Even after you see that as a story that we have created, I think there is more fun. You will, it is very amusing actually in a way. Like you can understand, sometimes, like, you sit in your chair in your room and then you're just thinking about your life, and so does this, so and so did that, so and so is going to do this, and this is what is happening in my life. And it's like when you don't understand that as a story, it seems everything is so real, right? And then you just carry it into that stories, and then all these things happens. And but in another case, if you sit there and you let yourself think about your life and all these stories that you have created, but as a third person, seeing that, oh, this is what I'm making, oh, this is what I'm making, and then you look back to yourself and see how it is, and it is amusing. You will be like, silly me. What am I thinking? You know, you're like there's one what's a good old saying in Tibetan saying that, you know, a person living in a small room that cannot feed the elephant, but he is imagining 100 elephants in his room, right? And creating all these stories, but there is no one elephant in his room. But he is afraid of so many elephants, you know. So that's kind of like a, you know, that's many times our fear is not really coming from that. So that is why the courage of the Bodhisattva, like, you know, baby step, one step at a time, learning, seeing this is just a story that I'm creating, and that's one good step. And actually, then you will understand, oh, I'm just making story, and this is just my projection, this is just my idea, and in my idea, I have created this, and, you know, it is not necessarily, you know, true. Then, you know, there's a less conflict, right? There's a less conflict in our self, and then there is a less conflict in society, and then it is like a less distraction. So that is why, you know, Master Shantideva actually talking about the isolation. So I'm just kind of explaining you what is Wempa in Tibetan. When means Wenpa means isolate, right? So Shantideva actually in the verses 85, you know, so like saying that after understanding the, you know, disadvantage of the desire, and then, you know, like you pull yourself, you know, away from that your own story, because the many time our attachment to the world and attachment to the thing is not really we are attached to the things. Our biggest attachment is our own idea. You know, that we are attached to our idea. Because in a way, if we create like a idea, this is good, then, you know, we go after that. So it is not that we are running after this thing, we are running after our own idea. So when we are running after our own idea, that idea is actually in our own mind. It is not there. You know, like what happens with the people we meet. So for example, you know, sometimes we say, you know, I fall in love with some and so and so. And then suddenly, you know, there is a little bit of truth, you know, you encounter with someone who you really like. But that person is actually just a reflection of something in your idea that you immediately, you know, project in that person. So then with that projection, your idea, oh, this is like, you know, sometimes we even use the word, we will say ideal person, right? He or she is my ideal person. You know, what does that mean? The word ideal, right? Ideal is just, oh, this is exactly as my idea of what this person should be. And then, you know, we encounter and we interact with that person, and when we are interacting with that person, then our attachment is different. You know, our idea, because we attach to that idea, and then slowly when we get together with that person, and many of the things that are coming out of that person is not exactly as our own idea, right? Then, like, what happens then? Then it becomes a disappointment, right? Disappointment. Then, like, it's a conflict. First, you know, I thought this person is what my ideal person is. And then, oh, this is not exactly as what I think. Now this is different. And in a way, then we actually fight with ourselves. But then at the same time, our ego still want to prove that you're right. And we trying to prove ourselves right, but then things that coming from there is not exactly, because it's a clash now, right? It's a clash between idea and reality. So the reality is different and your idea is different, and our mission is trying to put this together. And in a way it is impossible, right? The idea is coming from here, the reality is coming from there. And then, and sometime for some people it's a lifelong mission to put it together. That this is my idea, this is the reality, and the reality should be like my idea, and my idea should be like reality, right? And then, we get all this, like a misery, all this suffering, all this struggle that we create, and sometimes even the people kill themselves for that. They kill other people. They don't care about their family. They don't care about, people do so like unbelievable things, like just to make these two, your idea and your reality, same. It doesn't worth it. Really, it doesn't worth it, because if we understand our idea is just our idea, reality is just a reality. That's what Master Shantideva is actually. So, isolated. Separated. Your idea is different from reality. Your reality is different from your idea. And then, if we really see this clearly, distinction between the reality and the idea, the story and the truth, if we see that, then we will be much more clear. In that clarity, meditation is so easy, right? Then meditation, we don't really have to struggle so much in meditation. Because many things that we struggle in our meditation is because we have a very strong belief in our own stories that we let ourselves carried away. So that is why the first step is to see that. That takes a courage. That is courage. You need courage to see this, that it is just my projection. I'm just making it. I am the creator. I am creating my own life story. So that is, if we really see this, then we are facing ourselves and we are understanding what we are. And then we will understand what courage of the Bodhisattva that Master Shantideva actually is saying. So now, just a simple definition of what is meant by isolation by Master Shantideva. Isolating yourself from your own projection, like make it separate. And then, you sort of you pull yourself away. You pull yourself out of that story. Don't live your life as that character. It is just a character. It's just like we are not part of that story in reality. In our imagination, yes, you can make it, but the truth is we are not that person who we think we are. That's the coming to the bottom line. So maybe I said it a little bit earlier, but chapter, after the meditation chapter, the wisdom chapter, that is actually where it is going. The whole wisdom chapter is it is the truth. The truth, selfless, selfless, which is kind of where Buddha actually taught in most of his teaching. Selfless is like the, main understanding, right? Main wisdom that you need, which is you are not who you think you are. So we have this idea of who we are, and that's not at all you are. You are totally different from that idea. So if we totally cloud ourselves with our own idea, then we will never see the true self. So that is why isolating yourself from the story that we have created, the projection of our idea, pulling yourself away, and so then you will see the beauty of the meditation there. So then, like from the verses 86, I think he is talking about that. And so before we go into the main chapter, let us do the preliminary paying homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, honoring the Buddha. So here the verses is actually directly honoring the Shakyamuni Buddha, but ultimately our honor, it goes to our own Buddha nature. Okay, so it is like honoring our own Buddha nature and inspiring yourself to really get into that enlightened state. Right now, under the circumstances, we are in the state of ignorance. There's so many confusion, there's so many darkness, there's so many struggle, there's so many, suffering, and we are in the state of ignorance. So then, but we have this quality. We can be in the state of enlightenment if we really, take this sort of like a veil, like the confusion or ignorance away, then we will be in the state of enlightenment. So that's kind of like honoring our state of enlightenment that is actually residing in deep, within our consciousness. So let us do the homage to the Buddha. Dumba jumden den di je ban dra jumba yang da ban zo be san ye rig ba dan sha zo dem de wara je ban ji den ken be ge bon de ben ka lo gyur wa la na me Lada minamange dumba sange jumden den benge wa shaya duwa la chaza chudu gyabzu che hon dumba jumden den di shen shekban tra jumba yang da ban zobe sange Dan shabzu denpan devara shekban jikden kenbe gibon duwe kalon gyurwa lana meba lada minamange denpa sange jumden bege wa shakyan duba la chanza lo chedo gyabzu cheho. To the great teacher, the endowed transcendent being, the one who has gone beyond, the victorious and completely perfect being, the fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good in conduct. Sujatas, the one who has gone into the happiness state, knower of the world, supreme guide for human being who needs to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, the completely and fully enlightened master, the great Shakyamuni, to you I pay homage, make offerings, and go for refuge. Kanze kanyin zo kye damanse sa jen de la komban dumpo ne ngani jikden de na choje son de ze keba kye la cha sa lo Namda kunga chodo su sangwa yeshe yazo sege lumbondra Trawan jikden sumna lame wa gombo chonye ke la cha za lo Senju denpa chimen dawe she se don trawan ke la cha za lo Dure ke ra se ba suma je nyame kenjen ke la cha za lo Gombo to je che den ba tam je ken be den ba bo se na ma yen den ya zu shin di shin she la cha za lo ta ben de zhan zhen wan yu ren ge we nge suan len zhe shin ji du den da ma sho yu ren ba ji yu ren zhe la cha za lo zhe nian zhe wei lam yan de la ba da la ra du ni xin ge dang ba yun den den gen de la yang cha za lo san ge zuo la cha za lo ge ba che la cha za gen de che la cha za lo sum la da du gu cha ze cha ja we ba tam je la xin de gun ge rang ni le de ba ye nam gun chong du de ben chang za lo de ba jin ya me ja xin ge wa pu zu mo zuo ba je rang ge sim ne yong zu de de ne san ge den ba yin Karma rabri ma me dan gyu ma se ba ju bo dan me lama lo dan jin da bu di je che na ma de da ran da se na ma di tam che se ba ye go ba don ne gen ge cha de de ga da na da chi we la ju be se be zo len ju wa You were born on this earth, you took 7 steps, then said, I'm supreme in this world. To you who were wise even then, I pay homage. Your pure body endowed with supreme qualities, your ocean of wisdom like a golden mountain, your fame blazes throughout the 3 worlds. To you, the supreme guardian, I pay homage. Your face like a spotless moon with great qualities. To you with your golden color body, I pay homage. An immaculate one like you cannot be found in 3 worlds. The incomparable wise one, to you I pay homage. The guardian who possesses great compassion, bestowing teachings with great understandings of all. You are the field of merit with qualities as vast as ocean. To you, the one beyond, I pay homage. The purity that makes one free from attachment, the virtues that frees one from lower realm, the one path that leads to the sublime pure truth of reality, to the great peaceful Dharma, I pay homage. Those that are liberated and also showing the path to liberation and are devoted to the moral precepts, the spiritual field full of qualities, to the sublime Sangha, I pay homage. I pay homage to the Supreme Buddha. I pay homage to the object of refuge Dharma. I pay homage to the great Sangha. To all 3 I will always pay homage. To all worthy of respect with bodies as many as the atoms of the universe, bowing through the time and space with supreme faith, I pay homage. Avoid any non-virtuous action. Perform only the virtuous action. Completely tame your mind. This is the teaching of the mind. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See all compounded things as such. Through these merits may all sentient beings attain the state of all seeing and tame the force of. May all sentient beings be liberated from the samsaric ocean that is disturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Okay, so this is paying homage to Shakyamuni Buddha and honoring our Buddha. So now we will do the recitation of the Heart Sutra in Tibetan. Bang Gunju Sumla Cha Zalon Digen Dagin Tuban Tujina Jumden Den Gabu Kan Shagu Pongbu Rilang Gelong Gendun Jembo Changju Zembe Gendun Jembo Dan Tabji Do Shuden Tien Zi Jumden Den Samu Nangwa Xieja Chugi Namdangi Dingin Zila Nyambara Shuzo Yang Tien Zi Changju Semba Semba Paba Jere Se Wanju Gen Shira Gen Paru Do Jemba Samu Jeba Nila Namba Dash Pongbo Ngabo Deda Laya Rangshin Ge Dongba Nambara Tawo Tene Sangye Ge Du Sedan Dem Sheri Pu Changju Semba Semba Jembo Paba Jere Se Wanju Dige Je Mezo Rigi Pu Kan La La Shira Ge Paru Do Jemba Samu Jeba Jeba Deba Jida Laba Chan Dige Je Meba Dan Chanju Semba Semba Jembo Papa Jere Sem Wanju Ge Sedan Sheri Bula Dige Je Mezo Sheri Bu Kan La Rigi Pomo Kan La La Shera Ge Paru Do Jemba Samu Jeba Jeba Deba Dida Namba Dawa Jade Pongbo Ngabo Deda Laya Rangshin Ge Dongba Namba Yang Daba Jesu Su Dongba Wo Dongba Ni Su 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 Le Dongba Ni She Ma Yin Dongba Ni Le Yang Su She Ma Yin Dijin Do Zowa Dan Du Je Dan Nambara Sheba Nam Dongba Wo Sheri Bu Dedara Che Tam Je Dongba Sinyi Meba Ma Yeba Ma Ga Ba Jima Meba Jima Dan Jewa Meba Kanwa Meba Wo Sheri Deda Vena Dongba Nila Sumen Zowa Men Du Je Men Namba Sheba Men Ming Men Nawa Men Name Jime Lume Yime Sumen Damen Jim Rikja Me Jime Do Mige Kame Ba Ne Ige Kame Ige Nambara Shebe Kamge Bardo Ya Me Do Mare Ba Me Mare Ba Seba Me Ba Gaji Me Gaji Sebe Bardo Ya Me Do Dijin Do Dunge Wadan Gunjun Wadan Goba Dan Lame Yishe Me Toba Mado Baya Me Do Sheri Bo Deda Vena Chanju Semba Nam Toba Me Be Shire Shiran Ge Paru Do Chimba La Denjin Simla Driba Me Jin Daba Me Do Jinje Lole Shindo Dene Nyange Le Debe Taraj Tuzum Do Namba Jube Sanje Tamje Gyan Shiran Ge Paru Do Chimba La Dene Lana Me Ba Yang Daba Zobe Chanju Do Ngamba Sang Geso Deda Vena Shiran Ge Paru Do Chimbe Nga Rigwa Chimbe Lana Mebe Nga Minya Bada Nyambe Nga Dunge Tamje Rabdo Shivara Chebe Nga Meze Bena Demba Sheba Shiran Ge Paru Do Chimbe Nga Meba Deyata Gade Barak Para Sama Gade Bodhi Soha Sheri Bu Janju Semba Shembo Teda Shiran Ge Paru Do Samo La Labara Chao Dene Jumde De Dinge Zen Dele Shende Janju Semba Paba Jere Zen Wanju La Lekso She Jawan Jine Lekso Rigi Pu Dede Shin No Rigi Pu Dede Shin Jidra Gigi Demba Shindo Shiran Ge Paru Do Chimba Samo La Jebra Dijin Sheba Namjan Jizu Yirango Jumden Dige Je Ka Zene Tsedan Demba Sheren Do Deb Chanju Semba Jembo Paba Jere Zen Wanju Dan Tamje Dan Dembe Koron Deda Hadan Midan Lama Yindan Tisa Jeben Jigden Yirang De Jumden Dige Sungba Ngumbaran Du Do De Ya Ta Gade Para Samgat Bodhi Soha Papa Kunjo Sunye Gaye Damba Chumbe Chingelo Shinange Pachini Zumbi Dumbe Cho Tamje Mebaran Gyuji Shiwan Gyuji Tobaran Gyurun Ji Giri Dondran Gyaju Shiwa Dan Mede Nebe Kendan Jewa Tumbo Drujin Puzumon Zonyum Tashi Dejan Tengderen Dele Sho. Okay, so now next we will do the mandala offering. And so mandala offering is always a very effective ritual in the Tibetan Buddhist practice. Even though it is just a very short ritual, and mandala can be actually extended into many different ways of doing a mandala offering. There are like a sumbu, like a different kind of 36, offering of the mandala, and then 20 something offering. So then there's like a very long version, medium version, short version. So this is actually one of the short version of the mandala offering. It is why it is very effective. Actually, is mandala actually means kilkor. Kilkor means kil means center, kor means circle. So circle of the center. So what is it is referring to is what is the center of the circle is actually is the universe. Mandala means in a way, and another meaning is universe. So when we are making offering of the universe, so that's what it is saying. So making the offering of the universe, and so we have a mudra, we have a gesture of offering the mandala, which is actually goes like this, like you put your two little finger cross like this, then pull the two little finger with your thumb like each other like that, and then ring finger like put it upright like this, like facing back to each other, and then automatically your middle finger get crossed like this, right? And then when it cross like this with the two index finger, pull it. Yeah, if it is you're doing, first it is kind of a little uncomfortable. But it's just kind of like if you want to, learn. So it is just like this, okay? Yeah, and then, put your hand flat like this, like that. Pull it from inside, not from outside. Like this, like that. Yeah, and then two ring finger, like put it, make it up, like standing up, ring finger. When your finger crisscross, then sometimes you don't know which finger. And then two middle finger, cross like this, and then pull it. So this is actually the, so this is, the mudra of the mandala. So actually, what is this, the significance of this is actually the middle one that is standing is, we call, this is the mountain, the king of the mountain, Mount Meru. And then this four is it is like a four continent, or like the four, like a four continent from the mandala point of view. And then, two of these fingers, like the sun and moon. And then, these are just like, what do you call, flowers and incense that, so it is just a symbolic meaning, So what it is really saying is we are bringing it, this is saying this is my universe. So this is like you're bringing your universe in your own palm. And then when you are like reciting this, so the ground is filled with flowers and sprayed with all the beautiful smells and redoubling sheath. So then Mount Meru and four continent, sun, moon, and everything is here. This is my world. This is my universe, it is saying. So I want to make this offering the offering of my universe, offering of my world into the state of enlightenment, so that I will let go of this my world and offer it to the state of enlightenment. May all the sentient being, may all sentient being reach the state of pure enlightened state. So that is the the words that you are saying. So in this practice, what you're actually doing is you are letting go of attachment. You're letting go of attachment to your own world. So it's a simple practice, yet it is very. I think even though just for 1 second, if we can let go of attachment to our own world, I think actually that's a pretty courageous things to do, I think, right? Like many times, we are so attached to our own world, our own universe, right? This is my universe, and this is my world. And by actually feeling attachment to our own world, it doesn't do anything good. But, actually it doesn't do anything good. And again, what it will do is actually it pollute our universe with our attachment. So it is like we apply our attachment to our world, and so we make our own universe and our own world, messy, a lot of mess, with our attachment, with our, with our afflictive, afflictions, with our delusion, with our own negativity. So that is why, just for a few seconds, if you simply let go of this attachment to your own universe and just making this offering to the state of enlightenment, and then bringing the transformation in our own universe, I think that's a great ritual. That's a great, letting go ritual. So that is why mandala offering is a very, very profound and very effective. So, and that is why it says that, even just by doing one mandala offering, is like so many benefits. It is just like, accumulating so many merits, in our consciousness. So that is why, every workshop, every teaching, we do the mandala offering, and sometimes, practitioner who actually do like a commitment to go for a long retreat, they actually accumulate like 100,000 mandala offering, things like that. Like there are few sets of 100,000. Like people do 100,000 prostration, people do 100,000 mandala offering, 100,000 vajrasattva, those kind of like practice is mainly it is not. It's number is just relatively, we put it there, it's not the most important one, but like why we actually make this practice very important is in some level, yes, it does change, it does bring some transformation. So that is, so one of the practices called the mandala offering. So I'm just kind of giving you a sidetrack information about the mandala. Okay, so if everybody is ready, let us do the mandala offering. 주신 매도 Idamam Guru Radna Mandala Kane Reyatayami. Okay, so with mandala offering now, we will do the refuge. So this is shaping our motivation and focusing where we wanted to go. So Sanje Shodon So Yushon Sanjubadan just means that's the vision, that's our focus. You know, where I want to focus is Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. That's my focus. And how long I'm going to go refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha is until I achieve enlightenment. And then through the through the virtuous actions such as listening to Dharma and doing this kind of spiritual workshops. So may I achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is the intention, that's the motivation. So we will do this refuge 2 times in Tibetan and 1 time in English. Sangye Chodan Zoye Chonam La Chanju Bado Dane Gyabzo Je Dage Cheje Gebe Sunamange Rola Benje Sangye Drubara Jo Sangye Chodan Zoye Chonam Chanju Bado Dane Gyabzo Je Dage Cheje Gebe Sunamange Rola Benje Sangye Drubara Jo. I go for refuge to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. Through the virtues I collect by giving Dharma and so forth, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Adala meme dame anje ombo na gyajin la so chöge chola chawa cheba na sangye sumba rabdo shishin dewe gyugyo ba teta shege dambe chunye shine deshe shi namola ike dan lo dan nijinge drupum tada mi ike nam tan chowa kunge dan anjizan ba tamje ke don dage chö tön do kange den jen dewa jong kaba me bange me ba cheba me ba da me ba hoa me ba dro me ba tate tume tume choba ni shishi den ba zobe sangye manam ge tamba de la cha che lo. Okay, so this is our preliminary, and now we are coming to the actual verses of the Shantideva's Bodhisattva Way of Life, chapter this is chapter 8. So verses 85 was our last time, right? Do you remember? Anybody remember? Huh? Is it 85? Is that okay? So I think 84 is what we have done. After bringing to mind the anguish of hell and the like, neither weapon, poison, fire, or precipice or enemies are comparable to sensual desire, right? That's not that one. So this, until here, Shanditeva actually teach, the disadvantage of the attachment, right? So the disadvantage of the attachment, or the fault of the attachment, is because with the attachment, then actually it will bring us all into like a state of being like in the hell. Like I think I explained that earlier in our last session. Like in the Buddhism, when we talk of the hell and 6 realms, sometimes people like to put it in a very literal form, like something like it is so real that there is there is a hell, like a place, like somewhere, like people go, like after they die, and then it is just so like dark, and then miserable, and then there's like the God, and then they're all holding like it's really sharp things, and then poking you with all these sharp things, and cutting you into small pieces, sort of like that kind of what do you call image, like what image, right? That we create, like what is hell, but actually it is just all metaphor. It is. We don't have to really think about hell in a way that something that after we die we go. Like 6 realms. Really, we don't have to really talk about the 6 realms in a, like there's different realm. But I think 6 realm is just like in this very lifetime. Actually, we have those 6 realms. 6 realms, like state of realms. Like when we, like as a human, when we are just kind of normal, when we are normal with not much struggles, and just kind of simply normal, then that's called the human state. That's the normal human state. And then there is like 3 lower realm that in the Buddhist text, what it talks about, it is like really, it's talking about this life. Like animal realm is the realm or the state that we actually go there in our regular basis, right? Sometime when we actually feel, we are so vulnerable. We are when we feel like we are victimized, when we feel like we were taken advantage of, when we feel like people are always, letting me down, and then people are taking advantage of me. People are, trying to, sort of like eat me. So it's just an image, right? That's eating. That's what in the animal realm they do, right? The same thing, sort of like in our human life, when we feel like we are taken advantage of, when we feel like we are victimized by other people, or even we victimize ourselves too. So if we get into that state, that state is called the animal realm. We are in animal realm. And then when we go a little bit down in our own life, that we feel like we are so addicted, we are so greedy, and we are like like we feel like I want this, I want that, and then still you feel like you don't have anything, just like I don't have anything. I'm just like I'm just so poor. I'm just like I need this, we have this kind of like a craving, right? Addiction, the craving, so desperate that when we got into that kind of desperate feeling, that state, that's called the hungry ghost realm. That's the desperation. And then when we feel like we are so hopeless, like our life is filled with dark, everywhere we look, we don't see any light. There's like just like everything in our life is not running well, and like totally depressed, totally hopeless, totally, nowhere to go, and so dark. That state is called the state of hell. See? And in our day-to-day life, in our regular basis of our life, we go there. Like sometimes we go into our animal ram state. Sometimes we go into hungry ghost ram state, right? Sometimes we go into hell ram. So this is like if we don't have to fear about those things, the hell and these things. So this, what Shantideva is saying is actually when we are filled with attachment, when we have so much attachment, and we will be, fallen into this really desperate state and then hopeless state like hell. So that is why, if we are carried away, if we are filled with the attachment, then it is very similar to living in the hell. So if you don't want to live in the hell, then don't live in the attachment. That's what Shantideva is saying. And then, this is, I'm just kind of explaining, like sometimes the word like hell, and like our own projection, right, of what is meant by hell. So maybe then we go into interpretation of the hell, from like your own interpretation, like because many of us, here, like if your upbringing is from the Judeo-Christian kind of, upbringing, then even the word hell, just then your interpretation maybe unconsciously go towards there, like that eternal hell. Then sometimes, just like we will interpret that as like, oh, this now, Master Shantideva is trying to scare me. So I think Master Shantideva is not trying to scare you. It is saying, the hell state is not, after we die. It is just in this very lifetime. In this very lifetime, we know, right? We know how attachment takes us into the hell, right? Into the hell realm, into the state of hell. So by understanding that it will take us down into the state of our own hell, in this very lifetime. So and this, attachment is like a very sharp, like it's like the weapon, that actually cuts you, it will cut you, and then, you still sort of like go after, your attachment and things like that. So that is Master Shantideva is saying. And then, that's why so attachment is much worse than that. That's what he's saying. So attachment is actually worse than hell. Attachment is worse than the weapons that cut you. And attachment is worse than poison. Attachment is worse than fire. Attachment is worse than the clip. Attachment is worse than your own enemy. So that's what Master Shantideva is saying. And then sometime I just remember, I think the word enemy, it is like in Tibetan, like when we say what is enemy, we have a different version of understanding the enemy. In our daily life, when people actually go and, if they have something, sickness, right? If they fallen in sickness, or something like if they had some sort of like a really, really bad thing, and we have a beautiful expression, and I think this is a very, very good. What we say is we say, may this even not happen to my enemy. That's our prayer. Like something, if say, like, like you fell and you broke your arms and you had like such intolerable pain, right? Like, so like, you're like in this kind of pain. And then at that moment, like this is like I think this is a very good prayer. That it's saying that may this even not happen to my enemy. Like in Tibetan we say, "Nye dalaya dinde mayon wa shos." That's the Tibetan way of saying. So I think, I don't know if in the West you have that kind of saying or not, right? But I think in the Bible they have something like that, right? Love thy enemy, or not a neighbor, right? It's like I think it's similar message, right? Sort of like like even like when something really bad happened to you as a bodhisattva practice, I think it is good to pray like that. It is like, of course, may it not happen to my friends and family, but even may that not happen to my own enemy. So in some level it is showing your caring. It is like it is like enemy doesn't mean that you should always hate them. It is like but like in like sometimes like when we think about the enemy, that like we think that if someone is my enemy, then like we kind of like automatically think that, oh, I should hate that person, right? I should wish bad to that person, like So it is just like we create this kind of, but the word like the enemy, da, it is actually from the bodhisattva point of view. It says that actually you should care more about your enemy, right? So I don't know if that will happen, or if we have that kind of courage, like even in our own situation. I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He always says that like whenever, as a Tibetan, whenever you're making a prayer, when you're saying, may all sentient beings be happy, that is the first prayer that we always do in Tibetan Buddhist practice, right? And His Holiness also always says that when you pray, may all sentient beings be happy, you should actually learn how to put that first prayer to your enemy. And like after 1959, when Tibet was actually lost, and for a few years, actually, His Holiness was very, very focused on this prayer by saying that every day in my own prayer, he said that I always put, that time Chairman Mao was alive, and Chairman Mao and all the army that who actually killed and destroy my people in Tibet. And he said, I always put them in front first in my prayer. When I pray, may all sentient beings be happy, because these enemy that actually harming me, and in some level they need my compassion more than anybody else. So that is why, like, you're putting your enemy on the first line of your actually compassion and your prayer. I think that's the courage. So, like if we can understand what is enemy, like even like, when we understand, oh, this is so and so is my enemy, then as a bodhisattva, actually, if you think someone is your enemy, then your responsibility is to put that person first. Even bodhisattva have an enemy, yes, right? But then, if someone is your enemy, then you have a more responsibility. you should care more. But actually, it is true. I saw this, like a beautiful Facebook saying. If you love me, I'm in your heart. If you hate me, then I'm in your head. So it doesn't matter. Still, I am in you. Right? So, the people who we think most in our life is not our family and friends. Right? We spend a lot of time thinking about our enemy. So, it's in our head, it's just, even though we don't want to think about, but then it will just keep coming, thinking, then, it is always in in our head, in our mind, So that is why, just take advantage of that, whenever that enemy comes in our head, pray for that person, right? So, and that is, another sort of like a bodhisattva twist. I just thought about this, by seeing the word enemy in here, and then sometime, when we say enemy, I remember His Holiness used this word. Even Shantideva used that word in his text, saying that anger is my enemy, right? Anger is my enemy. So sometimes, we think like, okay, if anger is my enemy, then I should treat my anger with, by kind of like, sort of not nicely. But actually, it is not true. If you think your anger is your enemy, then when you actually look into your anger, and then when you turn and transform that anger into, if you make your anger into your friend, what are you doing with that? You actually, you destroy the enemy, right? You destroy the enemy, and then it become like your friend. So there is no such thing as a friend and enemy, right? Enemy is just a label, right? Enemy is just a label. So when we say, sometimes in the verses in the text, it says that kill your enemy, right? Kill your enemy doesn't necessarily mean kill the person. So if you have a person who is your enemy, if you harmonize with that person, and if that person become your friend, then what are you doing? You're destroying the enemy. Because you're not destroying that person. You're destroying the enemy, which means you transform that person into your friend. And when you transform that person become your friend, then where is that enemy? You already destroyed it, right? You already destroyed it. So that is sometime when we say destroy your enemy, it's not about destroying the person, destroying, taking out that enemy and putting because enemy and friend is a label, right? If you leave one person and you put the label enemy, that person become enemy. If you put the label friend, that person become friend, right? So it is. So if you take that enemy out, that means you're killing your enemy, destroying the enemy. But you're not destroying that person, individual. You're not destroying the individual. How can Shantideva, master like a bodhisattva, like Master Shantideva will say, kill, destroy, right? So destroying enemy is not the person, So that is why, sometime when we say, destroying the enemy, yes, destroy the enemy, not the person, just the label. And when you destroy that, then what happened is you actually creating that person as a friend. So now, verses 85. Okay, so I'm going little bit more. So after understanding, so it says that fearing sensual desire in this way. So I don't know, the word fearing is a translation here, but it's actually it's actually by understanding the disadvantage of the attachment. It is, actually, kyo means it's not a fear. It is like what do you call? It's understanding. Understanding the disadvantage of the attachment. So understanding the disadvantage of sensual desire in this way, right? So it is not. Sometimes, the translation goes a little bit, in the Tibetan it says that kyo is even not really fear. It is kyo. The word in Tibetan kyo means kyo means literal meaning for kyo is sad, and also it means dislike. So it is like after disliking a sensual desire. So it is mainly sort of like like when we are so much putting attachment into our life, then we are so liking our attachment, right? So it is like saying, so now don't like your attachment. So in a way, it is a very interesting word also, saying that after not feeling attached to your own attachment, also saying like that. So it is, Shantideva way of saying is very actually profound. So it is like after not attachment to attachment. See, now, like after, so in a way, sort of like when we are attached to something, so on some level, we are attached to our attachment too, right? It is like we like, sort of like, so it is in behind our attachment, then there is another attachment, really. So it is like, this, so say like, I like this, right? So looking at this flower and saying, yes, I like this flower. And so, then behind that attachment, behind that liking, there is another liking, right? There's another attachment, another set of attachments. So this is, like tetarun de la kyo chenes, like by disliking your likeness to the desirable things. So it's kind of a little bit a Zen kind of koan kind of thing, so it is like not liking the liking towards the things. So disliking sensual desire in this way, one should generate delight in solitude. So now, like by not liking the sensual desire, so now where should you focus your like? So it is like don't like your attachment, like the opposite of attachment. Like the opposite of attachment, sort of like a so so it is just like I was using the word, right? Solitude, right? Now you should delight in isolation. So delight in isolation means, so in a way, when you are attached to something, you are very, very tightly holding, right? So it is like, so now you let go of that tightness that you're holding towards your, things that you're attached to. And so now you should change, you should shift where you put your delight. Where you put your delight. First, you are always, before we understand the disadvantage of the attachment, we put all our delight in attachment, right? So, it is like we feel delight when we got what we desire, what we attach, right? So this is and then our delightness is always in the world of attachment. So now, stop feeling delight in the sensual desire. So now, shift your delight. So, you can still feel delight in isolation. Wempa. So, delight in isolation means now, earlier I was talking to you about the isolation, right? Delight in what? Delight not in your world of attachment, but in your real world. So isolate yourself from this. Delight in taking yourself out of your own story, your own projection of your life. Take it out. Generate that delight. Generate that. So delight in isolation. That's the word here. So one should generate delight in, it's in the solitude, right? Solitude is the translation here, but Wempa is, sometimes when is also solitude, when is also isolation, and is also away, away from, getting away. So sort of totally out of, out of that, the world of attachment. One should generate delight in solitude, and then nyumon ki tongba shiwe nage nangda do kende dawe zenden ki silwe yangbe dole kanse nyamga dame shiwe nalung yobai shien la pende semshin chakwarches. So and deserted woodlands devoid of strips and annoyance, the fortunate ones caressed by silent and gentle forest breeze, pace on pleasant boulders, spacious like palace, cooled by the sandalwood like moon rays, and ponder how to benefit others. So this is now it is saying, so simply when you let yourself out of that very crowded, gathering of your own story, then what happens is it is almost like you are in a very peaceful state. You are in a very peaceful state. It is almost so it is like being in the forest is just a metaphor, okay? So it is not a literal. So it is you are in what you will feel like is you will feel like you are totally free from conflict. Seba means means you're free from conflict because now you're no more fighting. You're no more fighting with your reality. You're no more fighting with your idea. But then you don't have a much affliction, because you're not so much deluded. So now it is you will feel like you are in this beautiful forest, which is very peaceful, and in the dark, in the night when there is a full moon and you are under the tree, and this the light coming, not so strong from the sun, just the moonlight is there and you can see everything, and then there's a wind blows in the summer, a cool breeze that blowing in you, and the king who is actually living in his own garden, with the beautiful pond and beautiful garden, and then just simply enjoying the cool breeze, of the wind, and then just simply, like you're so peaceful and you're thinking, how the king, the good king, thinking about how can I benefit my, people. Like, how can I benefit? What is the good thing that I can do to help the people? Like that Bodhisattva, who is in meditation, they are in like simply living like a very peaceful and thinking, how can I benefit all sentient beings? And thinking very peacefully. See, that's just this is just kind of like a Shantideva way of putting things in the kind of very poetry. So it is like that king who is, the good king, who is like the sitting in his own garden with the, like the, what do you call the fan, right? There's like the attendants, they are putting the fan on him, like, like not so, strong, not so slow, just kind of like breathing and then enjoying, the very silent, serene, atmosphere, and then just thinking like, what can I do to help, people? Like same thing, Bodhisattva is actually living in that kind of peaceful, serene state of their own mind, so they are not distracted. So they are not distracted by the, by your own ideas, because now you are isolated. You bring yourself, you actually took yourself out of your whole crowd of society that you have projected, and you are outside, and then you are simply, staying, residing in this very peaceful state of your mind, where not so much conflict is happening, and then, it is so peaceful, so serene, so calm, everything is not so dramatic, just like simply, and then you will have more clarity, right? You will have a more clear, ways of method of helping other sentient beings. So that's how Bodhisattva, who actually in meditation, that is how they stay in meditation. That's what it is saying, So the fortunate ones, the Bodhisattva who meditate, carried by silent, gentle forest breezes, pace on pleasant boulders, spacious like palace, cooled by sandalwood like moon rays, and ponder how to benefit others. So they are just kind of like they're peacefully, thinking, meditating. And Kangdong Xing Pu Dado, Kangdu Jisin Deneshi, Yongzin Sung Dunge Pang. So dwelling here, so in this state, so they stay here, dwelling here and there for as long as one likes, because now, in that state, it is not owned by anything, and not owned by anybody, right? So it is just it's a full of space. It is full of space, and because you don't have so much clutters, right? In that state, because you're already pulled away from your attachment world, so there's no, so there's no ownership thing, So it is full of Kangdong means actually empty house, Xingdang Pudadu means then it is like you are just like under the big tree, and and then you can just stay there as long as you want. Nobody is giving pressure to you. Nobody is actually, telling you you cannot stay there. It is my thing, sort of like so it is just you are free. Actually, you are freely dwelling in there. So dwelling here and there as long as one likes, freed from the exhaustion of guarding one's possession, because now you don't have any attachment in that world that, it is like you don't have any, what do you call, obsession. You don't have any possessing thing, right? So then if you don't have anything that you like possess, oh, this is my kind of like, because you don't have that attitude, you let go of this my and mine kind of thing, then it is like you are free. It's like you don't have to guard them. You don't have to protect, your environment. So it is like exhaustion of guarding one's possession and free of care. One lives as one pleases in an empty dwelling at the foot of tree or in a cave. So that is how you, like, how the Bodhisattva feel like when they are totally isolated from their own story of their life, So it is like you can do that too. It is not that only Bodhisattva can do. If we pull ourselves away from that, that whole crowded, that stories and the, characters that we have projected, and if we pull ourselves away, then that is the peacefulness, that is the meditation that we get. So that kind of, living as one wishes, homeless. Homeless is not, it is just like, it is not in a negative sense. Like it is because you don't have some sort of like ownership thing, sort of like so it is like you are in that very peaceful thing and not tied down by anyone. You are not tied down by anybody. No one is giving you pressure. One savors the joys of contentment. So because you are filled with contentment, you don't have to worry too much, which is difficult even for the king to find. So it is just like a metaphor of saying, even the Brahma, like even the Indra, the king of the god, Ongbo is actually the king of the god in the sort of like a Hindu kind of like a mythical sort of way of saying. Even the king of the god, Indra, will not have this kind of, peaceful and serene and, quality like that. So, and you can actually, find this kind of, serene place of meditation. So now, with that, after meditating on the advantage of the solitude in this and other ways, having one's discursive thoughts calm, one should cultivate the spirit of awakening. So now he's saying, like after you isolate yourself from this story of your own, ideas and all these things, you isolate from yourself, and then you feel this peaceful calmness, and then this serene kind of like a state. And then what meditation you do is, now it's saying at that time you do the meditation on bodhicitta, the spirit of awakening. So this is, and then from here, I think from verses, then it will teach you how to meditate on bodhicitta. So, and I think we will just take here as a lunch break to learn more of how to meditate on bodhicitta. I think we need more energy. Right? Our body is like actually going down. And our stomach is like a little bit saying, I'm tired, I need some energy. So yeah, in the afternoon we will go a little bit more into what Shantideva actually talked about, how to meditate on bodhicitta, with starting with how to find this equanimity, right? Equanimity. And then how to take universal responsibilities, and all these things are actually, his, technique of meditating on bodhicitta. So we will go a little bit more verses in the afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So we will gather here back at 2 o'clock. Yeah. Okay.